one of the greatest sayings attributable to the Buddha is life is suffering. And there's a simple story that's already been told that reveals to us one of the greatest of the mysteries, one of the greatest of the arcane laws relative to this statement, which we can all know. And that's the story about that time when there was a very great famine in the land. Everyone was starving. So the people gathered at the synagogue to pray for rain, but rain did not come. So the rabbi fasted for many days and he prayed. But after his time of fasting and prayer, a voice came to him and said, God will send rain when Rabbi Nath, who sits in the far corner of the synagogue, prays. So the rabbi called the shamash to him and asked him to go and call Rabbi Nath to the synagogue and also to gather all of the people. So on that day the synagogue was full to capacity. There was no space for anyone else. And Rabbi Nath was called to the rabbi, and the rabbi said to him, you must say the prayer. But Rabbi Nath said, I don't know how to pray. There are many more that are more capable than I. The rabbi said, you must make the plea. So he was called up to the bima, the dais, and standing there, really quaking in his boots, all of a sudden he said, wait a minute. And he went outside, and he came back, and in his hand was a clay pot with 2 spouts. And he placed one of the spouts to his eye, and the other spout to his ear. And then he turned to all the people in the synagogue and he said, now, let us pray. And the people en masse let out a wail from the deepest levels of their hearts. There was wailing and lamenting and weeping. Suddenly, there was a sound of thunder, and rain began to pound on the roof of the synagogue. Everyone was overjoyed, but when the joyous celebration was over, the rabbi said to Rabbi Nath, what was this that you bought? What did you say? And Rabbi Nath said, I am a poor cobbler. I have many, many children, and every day I have to hear them weeping, and I am not able to give them the bread for which they cry. So I myself weep, and I have gathered all of my tears in this vessel, and I have asked my wife to bury it with me when I die. But when you asked me to pray, I said to the Almighty, O blessed Creator of all, if you do not send rain, I will break this vessel in front of everyone. Ah, said the rabbi, it is as all of the great sages of the ages have said, the gate of tears is always open. What does it mean for us? The gate of tears. is always open. This reveals to us one of the greatest mysteries, one of the greatest laws that is in existence, summed up by the saying of the Buddha: life is suffering. We've walked our path. We know what has brought us to the realizations and awarenesses, the freedom of which we speak, that which allows us to even be able to verbalize the words that we would say when the physical body is dropped. What does it mean? Life is suffering. The gate of tears is always open. What happens in that moment when someone is dying, even when they say, such is life? What does it indicate? Or they call out to the Buddha, or they call out to their chosen idea. That last plea. Recollect your own life. What was the moment when life changed for you after a period of great longing, suffering, unknowing? We've all had those moments. We might call it the moments of surrender, but those moments of surrender always came with some words, didn't it? I can't do this anymore. God help me. If there's anything there, you've got to come to my aid. Isn't it so?
Pain draws us there.
Pain. Pain. But what does it mean? The gate of tears is always open.
Maybe because when the tears are coming, one is stopped to resist.
Yes. Yes. One has stopped resisting. And with the words that follow, surrender.
And it's a surrender, maybe not like an action, but like a non-action.
Like a non-action, absolutely. So when someone comes to you now, and you know they're in the midst of a great struggle, their heart is being wrenched with some trauma or tragedy that's going on in their lives, whether it be internal, mental, or whatever it is. What is it that's there for us that can trigger, can precipitate
Space, empty space.
Right. So what does it mean? The gate of tears is always open.
Because there's no separation from that person when they're unloading all their tears. You too feel those tears.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we're beginning to experience for ourselves how these laws are enacted, and they allow us to know what it is that we do without doing. But for the moment, we can remember this saying, this summation, and see where it leads us in the coming days relative to this sublime truth. Life is suffering. The Buddha also said, suffering